Six pack Lapadat. Keenan Lee's back. Before we get into it, just a quick reintroduction, if you will. It's been 2 years since you were on the podcast. We'll
Hmm.
dive all back into it. But for those who don't remember, Keenan battles with Ashton in South Korea. Uh, I mean, right down to freaking body weight, 957.5. You weighed in at 102 and change, so you're under 105. Um, and it was an absolutely sensational battle between you and Ashton. And at that point, he said he referred to you as a random Korean dude, and that was your canon story. And all these years later, of course, battles again with Bob and Ashton, and you were in the USAPL for this entire time. Now you're switching over to Powerlifting America Nationals, and super duper excited because, like I said, you've put up 957 and a half. For people paying attention, that is over the IPF world record for 105. You, as soon as you cross over, become an immediate contender for the world title, an immediate contender for Sheffield, for all of these battles. Some people might be sleeping. They may not know because they're not looking beyond at the you haven't been at the world stage in the IPF. And they're gonna find out. But so we'll get into all of that and we're what's been going on with you on your end in the last 2 years, and we'll go back into the canon story, which is a phenomenal story. But we were just talking about PA Nats, and the pathway isn't entirely clear. So you were mentioning that. So you did Pete Spence qualifying total, but it wasn't an actual event where you put up an actual total, right?
Well, that hasn't happened yet. It's like the last minute qualifier.
Okay, guy.
And it's on April 2nd, which is the day before Open Nets starts, because that's
Mm,
April 3rd to the 6th. So it's like because I'm in Korea right now too, so I don't have really an opportunity to go to America to put up a qualifying total, come back to Korea, prep for nationals, and then go back again. Like it's just too much money, and I'm 31 now, so it's just too much. Like it's too exhausting for me too. So I was thinking about it as just like let's just put all of the chips on Nats and just put the highest total possible. But with the way that Nats is designed, or like it's the way that it's set up this year, since I don't have a qualifying total going in, or well, I'll be putting up like 75 kg at that qualifier. I'll be put probably in the morning session. I'm not too sure right now. Session assignments haven't been allotted yet, but chances are I will probably be with the morning session athletes, the ones with the lowest qualifying totals.
first off, God bless Peace Fans for putting this together and getting people qualified. That's a genius idea. Just
Yeah,
the talk about last minute qualifier, my man. That is the last minute of last minute, and it's
yeah.
but
It's so
beautiful.
great that I can do it in one trip though.
And that's probably for a lot of people. That's
Mhm.
why it's a great idea. A lot of people can't take time off work, the travel, the expenses, etc. So you put it together right before Nats and just get everybody. So just one trip. You come a day early. Now, having said that, so first off, that's a great idea. Now, having said that, how much before you lift as a 105 is this qualifier? Are we talking 2 days?
It's I compete on the Saturday, which is the 5th, so it's 3 days out.
Well, here's what I wonder. How much of a total would you need for prime time? Because I mean, you don't have to be competitive, but are we saying with a 500-pound squat, which is nothing for you type deal? Like if you're just warming up, getting loose, do you think that would be enough, or are you thinking you shouldn't do that?
I don't think so. Well, the thing is, it wouldn't be that low anyway. There's some stronger guys in the 105s, like mid eights is probably something that I'd have to do to get into the primetime session. But also at that point, like it's 3 days out from the meet, the session assignments are already fixed. So
Mm,
I really don't have much of a choice at that point.
gotcha. So, um, PA Nats, you're pretty much resigned to you're going to be in the morning session, and people in the prime time are going to see you coming. So your assignment apparently is just put up a total that even if they see you coming, they can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, the idea is just go 9 for 9 and put up something. I was talking to Joe about this as well. Just put up something unbeatable. And the way the training is going, we have the blueprint to make it happen. It's a bummer that like I don't get to pull last because my deadlift at this point is the actually the one that can set American records. So it's a bummer that I can't take advantage of that and pull after everyone. But still, like I can use chips and I can put up like just a monster total that people are going to look at and go, "Damn, I have to beat that." And then maybe they'll shy away from it, or maybe they'll overreach and they'll miss some lifts. And if I put up the total that I want to put up, I don't think anyone can match that. And obviously, at that point, then I'll be happy with the result.
Now, okay, so let's back it up a stitch because it's been a hot minute since we've seen you.
Mhm.
What's been going on the last 2 years? Where you been?
So yeah, I mean, the last time I was on more of a global stage was 23 Raw Nationals with Ashton and
Mhm.
Bob, and the three of us. Similar situation with Ashton at that meet because of work commitments. I think he had to compete in the morning session, and then Bob and I were like, well, the point is to do the head to head. So all three of us decided to compete in the morning session there.
I remember that's right. I totally forgot about that piece. And that was amazing. How amazing was it? Ashton's like, listen, fellas, I have to compete in the morning. It's due to work. And you and Bob, even though you had the advantage, both said, let's both agree to follow Ashton into the morning session and battle it out for the national title. Dude, that was one of the craziest, most sportsmanlike camaraderie I've seen in a long time, all to have the head to head. And it's always better for the head to head.
It's always better, and like Bob was gonna do it before I did because they're both coached by Marcellus, so Bob knew the situation before I did. But when I heard of it too, I was like, it's not a true head to head if I know exactly what number I have to put up to get the win. Like you have to make those split second decisions, and like I have a few regrets about Raw Nationals and with the deadlift that I ended up having to attempt on my third attempt, right? But none of that would have happened if I knew Ashton's total, like going into my meet. I would have been able
Mm.
to plan it out better. And then it's not like you were competing on the same day, but it's not really like you're competing against each other. And this just didn't feel right. And we weren't fighting to qualify for a position or anything. It was just like who comes out on top on that day. And Bob's a competitor too. I see it on his YouTube all the time. He's basically like powerlifting's version of Kobe. So like with our competitive mindset, like it just made sense to do that.
Dog, is this not the perfect time to have thrown that little tidbit story out there while you say
This is no
no,
shade.
no influence here. Not trying to
I'm
guilt
not
somebody, but
I'm
I'm
not
just
trying
saying.
to I'm not trying to push like everyone earned their positions by putting up the qualifying totals that they did. I'm not trying to push anyone to compete in the morning session with me. And I'm not expecting them to because I think there's like Raw Nationals in 23 was that was the event where we're competing against each other. But there's stuff on the line, like there's a world spot on the line, and then I think both myself and Anthony, like if we win nationals and we get that world spot, we both have a great chance of winning the world title too, and then that would give us a chance at Sheffield. And Sheffield looks like there's like it looks like a 105 can take it next year, in my opinion. Or a 105 or a 120. So like I don't think that anyone really should risk that just to go head to head with me in the morning session.
So, what's been going on since we last saw you in fall of 2023? Because here we are in the first
Yeah.
quarter of 2025, and you are emerging.
Yeah, so 2024, the start of 2024, I was still in the USAPL and I was planning on doing the Arnold. But I think 3 weeks out from that meet, like I prep was going really poorly. I was having issues with my hip and they were chronic. It was so up and down. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I was like, oh, I need to get this, checked out and see like what is actually going on. And then I was diagnosed with an inguinal hernia. So I got surgery for that pretty much right away. So that was March 10th, March 9th of last year. I got a hernia surgery. Then everything after that has just been rehabbing and trying to go come back, return to form. And I finally think I'm back to at least where I was, and if not a bit stronger. And there was like a weight cut. I did a meet at 100 kg in between then too. But yeah, a lot of that was just biding my time for this moment here.
And while you're away and you're watching the 105s and you're watching, of course, Ashton comes over, Bob comes over, these guys that previously were rivals of yours, you're seeing both of them win world titles. Um, what are your thoughts when you're watching all this happen? Anatoly and Ashton battling at Worlds, great battle there. What were your thoughts on all this?
Honestly, honestly, there was a lot of envy there. Like don't I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Like I wouldn't have been able to last year with the surgery and all anyway. But yeah, I was just looking at Worlds. I was watching Worlds like way back in like 22 when Anatoly won that, and I was thinking, man, if I could just compete on that stage, I could take that title. So it's just been years of that really. And last year was no exception. It was just, man, I wish I could be on that stage, but I guess I'll just have to wait another year. And so like I just couldn't wait anymore. I'm getting up there in age and like there's other life things going on. So decided that, this would be the most opportune moment.
You were always going to come over then to the IPF, to Powerlifting America?
It wasn't Powerlifting America. It was like I have a dual citizenship, so I could compete for which like both South Korea or the US if I wanted to. But the way that things like played out, I decided that I would rather compete for the US, even though it is it is obviously just a much harder path to get to Worlds. If I was the Korean representative, then I really wouldn't have anything to worry about. It would just be competing at Worlds. That's like the main competition for me. But the way that things are right now, power, yeah, PA Nats is probably the more competitive meet for me, and I have to show out there just to get that world spot. But it's the harder path, but I'm confident that I can make it out on top. And I think I'm kind of sick in that way. Like I enjoy that I'm taking the harder path.
I mean, if you want to go to Worlds, going through the US is it's a meat grinder. There's
Yeah,
no
it's a
safe
gauntlet.
spots. Yeah, it's an absolute gauntlet. Whenever someone shows up to Worlds and it's Team USA across their chest, even if you're unfamiliar, you know what they went through to get there. You
Yeah.
know their quality. You automatically assume if there's American in that bunch, they're probably vying for the title or the podium at the very least. You know
Yeah,
this.
and it puts a target on your back, and I want that target on my back. Like I want people to know, think that I'm the one to beat. Uh, and I'm tired of being thought of as like a sleeper pick for anything. So yeah, I want to compete as the favorite to win something, and then I want to prove people right as well.
Why do you think you've been the sleeper pick?
I think, well, I mean, it is deserved. I've gone head to head with Ashton twice, and he's come out on top both meets. So like any meet where we're competing, he is the favorite, and then he's had a longer career than I've had, and he's been in more battles. Like unless I'm competing against Ashton, I'm really just competing over in Korea, and I don't really have any competition here, so no one's really paying attention to that. I'm barely even paying attention to it. So like I think rightfully so, I haven't really proven to anyone that I am the top 105, and I think this year is the perfect year for me to do so.
Do you think all over again, people are going to have this moment of, holy shit, who the hell is that guy? If you do what you're capable of doing at PA Nats, and then you end up at Worlds, for some people, and remember, powerlifting fans come and go in like 18 months. They don't have the the depth of knowledge in terms of what happened 2 years ago, etc. Do you think this could be all over again? Like, where the hell did that guy come from?
I hope not. I hope I made a bit more of a name for myself than just being some random who showed up and won. But if that is the case, and I understand that it could be that way just because of federations, and a lot of people really only pay close attention to the IPF. But if that is the case, then so be it. I'm not really out there trying to show everyone like who I am, like let my name be known. I just want the people who need to know, like the other 105s out there, like I'm the one to beat. And that's my main priority.
Would you have preferred to have represented US or South Korea in this?
Uh Personally, it's still the US just because I grew up there. I'm a naturalized US citizen. I was born in Korea. So my parents are Korean, but I spent most of my childhood, pretty much all of my childhood in America, and I kind of just identify culturally and socially with American values more so than I do Korean values. So it's it would be more of a point of pride for me if I was walking up on the platform with USA on my chest as opposed to Korea. I wouldn't really feel too patriotic or proud representing Korea just because I didn't really spend enough time here.
I mean, legitimately have zero accent. You're full on American. Do people
I
think
know.
that you're full on American in Korea?
Uh, oh, definitely, definitely. I have an accent when I speak Korean. So,
Oh, you have like an
and
American accent?
yeah, yeah. And I try not to speak Korean just because I'm uncomfortable speaking the language. So, I know I sound white as shit when I speak English, and I sound like a white guy speaking Korean when I speak Korean too. So,
So, what's going on in Korea right now for powerlifting? For a hot minute, there was big events happening in Korea. You guys, I remember. So when you guys had Ashton coming over, you had Russ coming over, and Joey Flex and the whole crew came over for a couple of those events. I remember some of the freaking views you had on some of the events. You had what I think was a big YouTube star. You were saying last year, a
mhm.
couple of years ago, the views were insane. I might be making this up. Didn't you guys have like a DJ or something, or like
Okay,
there was
yeah.
a lot?
So there was a huge YouTuber, like he still has like 3 4 million subscribers. Like he came as basically the commentator for the meet that both Ashton came to in August of 22, and then winter of that same year when Russ, Joey, and Sean showed up. He was the commentator then too, and his crew, like they edited footage as well and they put up videos on their channel too. So I think that's when powerlifting viewership hit its peak in Korea. Since then, there have been like issues with federations and stuff like that. USAPL Korea is still a thing. They still host meets, but uh, they haven't had that international draw because we haven't really had the opportunity to bring anyone in to compete. And it makes sense as everyone's moving over to PA. Like there's not really the opportunity to do that anymore, but it's still chugging along. It's just more localized now. I think there was a huge draw to it when both Ashton and I competed the first time at that first USAPL Korea meet, and then when Rush showed up a few months later. But yeah, since then there really hasn't been anything huge, but it's it has been progressing. At least the community, I think, has been getting a bit bigger.
For a hot minute at that point in time, everyone's like, what the heck is going on in South Korea? Like when you and Ash went toe to toe and you guys brought Ash over was a sensational battle. And everyone, not only did everything had to work out the way it did, not only did they have some phenomenal shows with great viewership where you had that YouTuber with millions of followers posting up here, which is perfect for instant views and making it instantly more palliative for the public and general public. Perfect. But then you needed a local guy like you to step up. It couldn't just be all these guys coming from abroad into South Korea and just running amok. And it's great to see them put on good shows, but you needed somebody from South Korea to step up and challenge somebody who could be the star. And for you to have done it against Ashton, no less. And this is Ashton 2022 range where I mean, freaking probably Taylor was the number one, but he was number two.
Mhm.
You could make a very good debate that he was number two. And for you guys to have gone toe to toe like you did, and then their follow up to be freaking Russell Orhe. I mean, you guys were doing a phenomenal job growing powerlifting in South Korea at that moment. And then, of course, Russ brings over his whole crew. Joey Flex is there. All the videographers, they make like so much content. He's the perfect guy because you're not only going to get him for that competition, he's going to bring his own content creators. And off of that trip, I remember all the photo shoots they did in the street. I remember all the backstory they did and the whole every time they went out for dinner, they were posting up their food and they're posting up like getting ready to hit the town and whatnot. And they doubled over. I think they went to Japan afterwards. And like
Mhm.
the whole trip was documented and we were all along for the ride. And when you make selected choices like that, knowing, okay, you bring this guy, you don't just have him for a competition. And God bless, Russ had a phenomenal, he's never hit that total again. Like that was a phenomenal, he obviously he's up a weight class, but still, but you also know who you're bringing when you're bringing an influencer with that kind of reach, and he's going to bring his own media team. It's the perfect PR movement for you guys. I say you guys. I know you're not USAPL South Korea. I just mean the South Korean
Mhm.
powerlifting community. Period. It was perfect, man. And for a hot minute, people were like, "South Korea is turning into a bit of a hotbed over here. What the heck is
Yeah,
going on?"
it was the place to be for like 4 months, but
For
but that,
four
yeah,
months,
that
it
was
was the
about it.
hottest.
Yeah.
Uh, it was amazing, man. And people were wondering what the heck might happen there. But I mean, it is what it is. On the IPF side, is the presence there still like very small? Is it very much still a
It
fractured presence in Korea?
it's fractured. Yeah, it's very fractured. And I don't know if it's really going to get any better. I think there's just a lot of personal tension I think involved between people, myself included. I have some animosity with the people running the IPF affiliate here, so that's part of the reason why I chose to go with Powerlifting America. But yeah, I don't really see it getting too much better anytime soon. And yeah, regardless of that, like even if Korea had maybe a stronger, more unified IPF presence, I, I guess it might offend people if I say it. The talent pool just really isn't there right now for Korea to really make its mark on the world stage anyway.
I mean, that's fair. It's still a burgeoning market in terms of it takes
Mhm.
time to grow it. It
Yeah.
helps for somebody like yourself. I know you're going to be representing US, but
Mhm.
you live in Korea. Do you live in Korea all year round? You do you do a little bit of both?
Right now. So like I'm getting married in April, so
Oh,
so I
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So I'm living with my fiance right now, so it's all year right now. We're planning on moving back to America, but that won't be for at least another year or two.
Gotcha, gotcha. Friggin' dude, right around nationals too.
Yeah, yeah. I've picked the busiest year possible. I'm competing April 5th, and then I'm getting married on the 19th
Holy
or the 20th.
smokes.
The 20th, yeah.
And there's not a lot of time. Dude, if you do what you want to do, Worlds is right around the corner.
Yeah, yeah. Worlds is then Worlds is then I think 8 weeks after that or seven. So it's a busy schedule I've lined up for myself.
Are you doing what's the plans in terms of honeymoon? You gonna honeymoon in Germany? Are you
So
gonna
this
what's the
is
plan here?
okay. So I like that you brought it up because I feel like I sound too cocky if I brought it up, but um my fiance and I are planning our honeymoon around Worlds.
Oh, God, it's so confident to be like, babe,
Yeah.
get your tickets ready. Start looking around Europe. Europe is love. You don't got to stay in Germany. You compete in Germany,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
Europe in the summertime. Are you kidding me? You could tour around from Spain to Italy to south of France. It's freaking
Mhm.
beautiful.
Oh, we're actually planning all of that, and this is gonna sound like the cockiest shit ever, but we're also
Nice.
avoiding England and a few countries on the west because I was like, no, I'm taking you to Sheffield too, so we can make that trip next year.
I love it. I freaking you're like, Bab, don't worry about that. We're gonna have trip to Sheffield later on. Why would you pay for this now? It's gonna be paid for soon. Dog, yeah, no. Hey, you know what? Plan for success, man. Plan for
Yeah.
success. And it goes to show, obviously, you can't talk too much about your numbers because um, yeah, you got you want to surprise people, I'm assuming. But yeah, freak man, you might as well. It's dude, I'm excited already. Um, I'm glad you're back and I'm glad everything's going well. And in terms of all these injuries and whatnot, this is all in the past. Like you're 100% right now.
Uh, I'd say I'm the healthiest I've been in a really, really long time. Like normally towards the end of blocks, I'd have like things pop back up and I wouldn't be able to go through with the numbers that I had planned for the training block just because of nagging injuries and stuff like that. But like I took my rehab from that hernia surgery like really slowly and I think I handled it pretty well. And I trained without sleeves, without a belt, without really any equipment for about 6 months after that as well. So I think I just gave myself so much time for the soft tissue to build up and get strong. So like my body's holding up now better than it ever has.
And when you look at, so we're already talking about Sheffield, and we'll pull it back in a minute, but let's just have some fun here. So when we look at Sheffield, obviously you've seen Shell, what Shell did, 66 kilo class. If there's any records that are vulnerable, that can really get taken for a ride, they're getting taken for a ride now. If there's any divisions that have been underperforming compared to what an outlier might do if an outlier shows up, those records are going to get taken for a ride. And Shell is like, excuse me, I'm an outlier, and this is about to happen. And the 66 kilo title just got taken for a ride, and he had the biggest world record break we've ever seen at Sheffield. And some of the talk he's talking about world games, he might take all the formulas and become like the pound for pound king and take that from Perk. Who the frick knows? We'll see soon enough. When you look at the 105s, right now the world record is 940.5.
Mm-hmm.
And you compare that world record with other world records that are out there, like Jesus Oliveira's, what he did in 120 plus. When you compare what Perk's doing as a 74, when you compare you compare that to all the other world records, where do you rank that world record? Where do you rank it on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how difficult it is and where it could be?
So I saw like a graph recently that put all the men's world records and then put a like a curve of best fit uh through all those records, and the 105s and the 120s were well below what that curve expected the records to be. And I think those are the two most vulnerable weight classes. I can't speak on what's going to happen with the 120s because I really don't know what's going to happen with with Bob and Rondell, but the 105s look really vulnerable right now. I did actually like last year, even before Shell said that he'd do 66. I thought that 66 was a really vulnerable weight class, and lo and behold, it was.
Mm.
And I thought that the 83s and the 93s could get bumped up quite a bit too, but they also both did at this year's Sheffield. But like 105, that's and there were no 120 reps at Sheffield this year. So those two weight classes, like I feel like if the right person shows up and has a good meet, both of those weight classes have the chance to get beaten by an even bigger margin than what Shell did this year.
Holy smokes. What do you think then? Look at first off, we know Rondell previously at the same year. No, was it the next year? The USA Nats, I think it might have been the same
It
year,
was the same
actually.
meet. It was
Yes,
the
it
same
was.
meet.
It
Yeah.
was. It was 10:45. Now he's well
Mm-hmm.
past that. The way it looks like you
Mm-hmm.
saw that freaking 425 kilo deadlift he did. It's ridiculous. I have no idea where Rondell is, but 1100 kilo total might not be off the table. Like this guy is
Mm-hmm.
crazy strong. So yeah, the 120 plus, if Rondell makes it to a world championship and then Sheffield, that could be taken for a crazy ride. Let's hope. Let's put a pin in that. There's wheels in motion. Let's see what happens. But the 105s, where do you think the world title, the world record, sorry, should be in your estimation?
I think, I mean, with the talent pool in the 105s right now, Uh, I think the world record should already be in the 960s, but I think that like with the numbers that I have in mind over the course of this year, I think it can get pushed past 1,000.
1,000 kilos at 105. That's the big one.
Yeah,
That's the one Bob was looking for.
yeah, and that's the one that I've been looking for like 2 years now.
And obviously, if you could win worlds without doing that, the perfect place to do that would be Sheffield.
Exactly.
So there's some parallels here in terms of
Mhm.
storytelling. Shell was a world champion in and out of equipment, world games, the whole freaking nine. But like we said, people are new to powerlifting. And unlike a lot of sports, football, baseball, whatever, the legends of our sport aren't like mainstream stars. So you can be a multiple time world champion, world games, and all of the rest of it, like Shell was. And when he reemerged at the European Championship and did 800 kilos, everybody's like, and he took the world record and he started bumping it up on Perk, which is kind of funny that they ended up facing off at Sheffield after Shell bumped up the 74-kilo world record. He drops down and Perk is like, oh, nice, thank you. That was clever. But when he reemerged, a lot of people were like, holy smokes. The new fans were like, who's this new guy? And everyone else who's been around this whole time was like, new guy. No, 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 my friend. That's Shell. That's a legend. You ask Taylor Atwood, who went 1-1 with him at the World Championships, like that was his old rival. Like Taylor and Shell were like Russ and Brett Gibbs back in the day. Like that was the
Mhm.
rivalry. So, anyways, Shell comes along, wins the world title, or well, he's looking to win a world title actually. He came in silver to Perk, but wins Sheffield, etc. So his reemergence and then targeting that world record and doing what he did at Sheffield, you can see some possible correlations here where some people might who aren't in the know and they weren't like especially 2022's for them is maybe even before they were even paying attention to the sport. If you show up, you might be winning world titles and then Sheffield and then all the rest of it. If you put up those kind of numbers, it could be an absolute monstrous coming out party for yourself in the next year. Just an absolute pivotal next year for you.
Yeah, it's it's huge. I'm really just putting everything on this year and I'm really just focusing all on training this year. Uh, but yeah, I see the parallels there, and I'm not really too worried about what like the what people have to say about it, and I don't really think that Shell was either. I think he played the ultimate chess match over the course of a year, and he came out on top as a result of it. If people don't expect me or aren't expecting me to be to win worlds at 105 and then come out on top at Sheffield, you know I think they're mistaken, and they'll get to know come next January. But yeah, that's the vision that I've set for myself. Like I'm so confident that I'll be able to hit those numbers in January. Like I've been like doing the math. Like apparently on your phone now, on an iPhone, you can see your calculator history, and I've just been adding three numbers together like every day, and it's just seeing what total that adds up to, and seeing what percent of the world record that is it like it beat that number beats the world record by. Like I know Shell's margin of victory was like well like what 6% or something like that. He was
Right.
6%
Yeah.
over the world record, and I'm seeing like okay, how can I get 6.5% over the world record? Like I'm that's kind of what I'm looking for there. Like maybe I can even beat win Sheffield by the largest margin over the world record.
Hey, listen to me. If you're gonna do, we're gonna play this game of parallels with Shell. I'm telling you, Keenan, the best thing that you could probably do, you win PA Nats, you win worlds with just what you need to win, obviously, and you go to NAPFs and you do what Shell did and you fucking take that 120 kilo world record for a ride as far as you can push it. You add as many kilos, even if you just put 10 kilos on that world record, you're helping yourself for Sheffield for whoever shows. Because I think you're right. I think the 120 kilo record and 105 are both vulnerable, and you could do a shell and you'll do yourself a good service. Whatever you could do at NAPFs, if you could take that thing for 120 for a ride, you don't have to be a big 120. If you put 10, 15, 20 kilos on it, just you're not going all out at Worlds. You probably aren't going to go all out at Worlds. Go all out at NAPFs. You don't even have to cut for it, for God's sake. Take that freaking thing for a ride. I don't care if it's a big flight or whatever. It's not going to be fun. But I tell you what, come Sheffield, you're going to be pretty flippin' happy you did. And you could tip the hat to Shell and be like, my friend, I took a page out of your book. I know Rondell and Bob are listening to this right now, being six, shut the fuck up.
I never even considered that, honestly. Like
They're
I was
like,
like,
six, what you close your big mouth for once? You're always talking. You always got something to say. But I'm just telling you, if you're taking a play out of Shell's book, this is how gangsters play, Playboy. Okay? This is chess, not checkers. And you got one shot. You got one shot. Do everything you can. And not only that, it makes the legend even bigger. Because Shell's story is way better when Perk comes on the podcast and he's like, you fucked me. Well played, sir. And Perk himself is like, that was master class. But the master returned and did his damn thing. That's what you expect. Um, I would. Dude, I would. And not only that, you have an opportunity for a freaking world record. Why the heck? You know how to have to be a two world record holder, like a world record in two different divisions alone is amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you have both of those on your resume, now picture this year. PA Nats title, world record in 120, a weight class up, and then Sheffield. Stop. If you did nothing else for the rest of your career, you could be like, okay, well, that makes up for everything. That
yeah,
makes up
that's a hell of
for
a
the
resume.
2 years I sat on the side. That makes up. This is storybook, and then everybody will be like, damn, that's how the game is played. I would, anyways. Just just what do you think? Am I crazy?
I don't think you're great. I never even really thought of that. I just was like, let's just let the 120 record be. I was kind of hoping that Bob and Rondell would meet at Worlds and push each other.
Mm,
That was the outcome that I was looking for, but obviously it's not going to happen that way this year. So that is a possibility. The only caveat to that is that I'm already a light 105, so I am trying to fill out the weight class, but like I weighed in at 98 at my most recent meet back in December, and I've been trying to bulk back up to 105, and it's honestly been slow. So I don't even know if I can weigh over 105, even if I
you
just
can.
keep
No,
eating.
you can't. You could drink water and you could be 105 dog. Yes, you can. If that's the only thing stopping you, there's nothing stopping you. Don't worry about that. You got time for all this. And then obviously, if Bob hears this, he's got to try to stop your pathway by signing up for APS immediately. But he would have to. You would force his hand. It is what it is. We'll see what happens, how it all plays out. But if there's an avenue there, you'd be crazy not to take it. It's too bad you're not European. You probably have more options to go after world records. But you know what? There's also like Arnold Classics that have world records. There's other events. Although, is the Arnold European Arnold Classic, UK Arnold Classic, are those still going on? I don't
I
know if I
think
saw
so.
those on
Didn't
the
it happen
schedule.
last year?
Yeah, I don't know if they're still on the schedule. I'll have to double check. Either way, you should this is a move you should make to target and do you. And it'll it's tough. It's the toughest. But you'd be crazy not to. And I think more people are going to start doing these kind of moves as well.
I
And
think
it's
so.
fun.
Until like the weight classes, I think like get established, like the world records of each weight class get established, so that like Bob being as light as he is and being the 120 world record holder isn't like doesn't really make sense right now. I think there will come a time where the biggest guys, the strongest guys of each weight class have set the world records for their weight classes. And at that point, you can't really play any games with the weight classes. But I think we're in that evolutionary stage where that's happening, but that
Mm.
hasn't happened for each of the weight classes yet.
What do you think about Bob going 120? Because he was 105. That look at let me first say, sorry to cut you off before you get going, but that quote, "Don't get clapped by 105." Oh, god damn, that was slick.
Yeah, I have so much respect for what he's doing because he's still still like 109. He has every opportunity to go back to 105. Like in training, he's 1025, I think that's what he put up. That's 85 kilos above the 105 world record, right? And the fact that he has Rondell, like he has tunnel vision with this. Like I have so much respect for him because I feel like other people may be like, maybe I'll just keep stacking on world titles as a 105, but no, he's just fully committed to this 120 route, fully committed to this bulk. Like I remember he had to eat a lot to even fill out 105, right? And when the three of us competed at Raw Nats, all of us weighed at 105, even though we were competing in the 110 class. Like he was eating all the time then. And
Mm.
he has the confidence to go, no, I can keep building to 120. I don't even know if he can eat enough to get to 120, but he's doing it. So like, yeah, I love to see it. And also like I don't know. It's just one less competitor for me to worry about. Like if he was a 105, I'd like to do the head to head, but if he's as a 120, then I can just kind of watch as a spectator. Now I don't really have to worry about the competition.
So crazy what he's doing. I mean, hats off to him. The guy is freaking fearless with this. And
Mhm.
he gets fixated. He's totally fixated on Rondell. I don't know what the hell happened. It started off as like a fun challenge, and then I don't know how Rondell feels about like because when a smaller guy calls you out, and it is the whole "don't get clapped by 105," and then he took the world title at 120, and Rondell's on the side thinking, my man, you want me? Like Rondell actually is dropping videos laughing at him, saying, "You be careful what you ask for. Like you don't want me. You think you that's cute." And he's laughing like it's cute. And then Bob does reply videos being like, "Dude, do you think this is cute? Who are you smiling at? You gotta take me seriously, sir." And it's intriguing because you're right. Bob is a very small 120. He's not even a 110 to tell you the truth. We'll see when by the time they actually clash how big he is. But frick man, I am super duper curious how this unfolds. We have unfortunately some politics that are stopping this from happening right now, but I think it is going to get cleared at some point because Rondell's suspension is officially over. They can
Mhm.
clash. They don't have to clash at Worlds, man. They can clash anywhere. We could do this anywhere. This can go down, and this is going to go down in 2025, no matter what. So Bob is going to get the big showdown he wants. I don't know how to call it. Initially, I'm like, yeah, Rondell's is way too strong, but Bob is getting tons of strength. It depends how big Bob can get.
It does, yeah. And the thing with Rondell is if you are posting videos that are laughing at Bob, it still means he's in your head. Like it still means that you're thinking about him. Like if he's no competition at all, you're not even worried about the guy. You're not even giving him the time of your day. But
Mm.
like Rondell also knows that Bob's his biggest competitor, and so like I think he's Rondell's kind of thinking like there's no way, but also at the same time like he's giving him his flowers like and acknowledging that Bob is currently like well the world record is his. He's the best 120 officially, and he's acknowledging that to an extent. Like I don't think Rondell thinks it's just a complete afterthought.
Can't really, to be honest. Like it is still Bob. I mean, is it's true. I think you're 100% right. You know how many people are 120s trying to get Rondell's attention, and Rondell's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to make a video about you. But Bob, he deserves your attention. No question about that. And you're right. Like, yeah, he's about a 109. He's going to start if he tips over 110. Now we're starting to get. We'll see where the numbers go. I do wonder if there's going to be a cap off of how big he can get, like the diminished gains, if you will. in terms of
Mm.
size. After a while, it's like, okay, this is after 110, doesn't matter if you want 11, 12, 13, your lifts aren't going to keep going up, up, up. Like your body is capped off. You can start getting, chubbier, fluffier, if you will, but it's not necessarily going to reap the gains that you want. I wonder. I don't know for sure, but because you're right, he's trying very hard to gain weight. But I mean, Frank, whatever. It's becoming an intriguing story. We just need the payoff to that story. We need to
Yeah,
pay. We've been patient.
I just hate that politics are like the main reason keeping them apart right now. Like that shouldn't be the case. Like these are probably like yeah, I mean like yeah, Perk is currently pound for pound king, but like these two are right up there, and the fact that we're not able to see them go head to head because of what other people are doing, like not because of what the athletes are doing, like not because of any
Mm,
injuries or anything, just because of politics. It's like it's a shame for the sport, honestly.
it's a travesty, man. It's a freaking travesty. Don't get me going about Rondell,
Yeah.
but it is, but it is what it is. And you were saying you were having a tough time putting on body weight. So what's going on with your body weight?
So I actually had a pretty easy time putting on body weight after the surgery because I wasn't really moving around and I did put on a bit of fluff. And so once my body started feeling better, um, I was like, okay, I need to cut down. Like clearly most of this body weight isn't useful. So I got a nutritionist, Natalie Richards, and I've been
Hmm.
working with her. I worked with her to cut down to compete at 100 kg back in December, and I dropped all the way down to 98 on meet day. And then since then, I talked to her about it, talked to Joe about it, and we decided that a slow bulk to 105, so that I can weigh in at PA Nats without having to cut. And then following that, we might continue bulking to like the 106, 107 range, so just to maximize strength, and then cut for Worlds or cut for Sheffield. But I thought the bulk would be easier, but like I've been, and it has been happening, but I'm still like sometimes I'm like mid 102 on like when I'm the heaviest, it's like low 103, so I still have a ways to go.
And this is Natalie Richards, of course, like the 57 kilo, world champ, best lifter 2023, like that
Mhm.
Natalie Richards, right? How did
Yep.
you end up working with her?
It was actually a recommendation from Joe. Joe said some of his athletes had worked with her and that she was great. And yeah, I agree. Like I haven't been able to predict my body weight. I haven't been able to predict my body weight at all. But like working with her, it's like, oh, I know how much I'm gonna weigh on this day if I eat this much, if I drink this much. So like the fact that body weight is predictable and that is sustainable, like it's a huge amount of pressure like off of me because
Mm.
before that I used to step on the scale and go, what's the damage today? But yeah, the fact that like just everything's you track everything and then you know where you're going to be, like what your body weight's going to be in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like it's so helpful for training.
Because I knew she was coaching athletes. I'm not sure I knew she was doing nutrition as well. But
Oh
but
yeah, no, she knows her stuff with the nutrition.
oh yeah, yeah, freaking I've had Nat on several times. Like I love
Yeah.
Nat. She's awesome. I've done commentary with Nat. Yeah, that's good, man. That's cool that she's got an athlete like yourself too. So it'll give her more exposure in terms of
Mhm.
coaching and whatnot. Because I know she does also the actual powerlifting coaching with the
Yeah.
programming in terms of the
Mhm.
strength and conditioning side as well. But yeah, I think this is the next piece where I mean it's been a piece people have been doing, but more and more people getting nutritionists, especially now that people are very much focusing on world records and weight classes. We see this all the time now, like Shell dropping down, Agatha dropping down, Evie dropping down, or anybody bulking up. Like Rondell and yourself who need to fill out a weight class. You got to be as strong as possible. It can't just be, you don't want a fluffy weight. It's got to be appropriate weight. You want to do this at a proper level. Nutritionists, man, for the longest time, a lot of people weren't, or just did it themselves. Like, yeah, 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 I could do this. It's like, no, 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 take this seriously. Pull out all stops. And now nutrition coaches like you have like everybody's getting in the game with this. Like there's a lot of people that are available all over the world. So there's really no reason not to. At one point you had like a handful. But in powerlifting in general, we got tons. There's no excuse not to. They're all
Yeah.
available.
If you want to excel at the sport, I think you absolutely have to do it. I remember when I first started powerlifting, like when I first started getting into the sport, I was watching like powerlifting meets and going, these guys are all like kind of chunky. And I was like, is this what you need to be successful at the sport? But now, like, even if someone has completely filled out a weight class, you know that pretty much all of that body weight is being used to make that person as strong as possible. Like these people look built, right?
Mm.
Like I think I saw a picture of you and Agatha the other day. Like I think that was yesterday.
Okay.
Damn,
All
her
right,
arms are
dog.
huge. Like god
Dog,
damn.
dog, dog. Fucking shirtless, or not shirtless, sorry, sleeveless shirt. What the hell is that all about, Agatha? It
I
was a
was like,
banquet. It's a Sheffield banquet. You're wearing no sleeves. It was too much. I should have known that she's gonna flex. Yeah, she's jacked.
yeah.
But yeah, this is what it is now.
Yeah, this is what peak powerlifting looks like. It should look like that. Like, okay, so yeah, powerlifters because of leverages and like to be to excel at the sport, maybe you don't want to be the tallest person. Like I think I'm really the exception there because I'm 6 feet tall, but like other than like just being maybe on the shorter side, like you got to be built, you got to look aesthetic, not to look aesthetic, but it just maximizes the amount of muscle that you're putting on your frame for a specific weight class. And I think people are catching on to that. And I'm pretty late to the nutrition party too, but like I've realized just how much it helps to maximize the amount of muscle that you put on your frame, but also just keeping track of that nutrition makes you understand like how much it affects your day-to-day performance as well. And like that really helps with your training. Like because before it would be like, okay, if I didn't eat too well the day before, how's my training today going to go? But I don't really have to worry about that now.
Do you think at some point, because you are 6 feet tall, like, are you going to be 105 forever? Do you think?
I've I've been in the like 108 to 110 range before. It just hurts. Like honestly, like it hurts my joints to walk around at that body weight. So I like a few years ago, I think I bought a suit anticipating that I'd be 120 at some point. So it's like huge on me right now. Um, but yeah, so it was wishful thinking then. Like when I actually seriously tried to do it, it's I don't think it's possible for me. Like I know that I'm tall for a 105, but 120, I think there's just too much other like health concerns that get in the way from me to actually like be competitive in that weight class. Like I feel like I'll just have to be dealing with too many nagging injuries.
Now, a 15 kilo jump in body weight is huge.
Yeah.
Like that's not a small ask. And yeah, 6 feet tall is tall in powerlifting, like period. Like a 120 plus is that's still they're around 6 feet tall. So 6 feet tall is like super tall for powerlifting. But on the flip side, whatever. You don't have to be super duper like thick. Like
Yeah.
you're jacked, you're plenty jacked enough. It kind of is what it is. There's going
Yeah.
to be some taller powerlifters.
Yeah. I'm not going to be the asshole who's like, damn, I wish I was shorter. Like, who does that?
It's no man in life. You know,
Yeah.
say
Yeah. I'm not gonna go to my fiance and go, damn, I wish I was shorter. I could have lifted more. Like, no, she's happy that I'm 6 feet tall.
and she's like, yeah, I wish you
No,
were
stay
five
that
five
way.
sometimes. I wish you were 5'5". You would have
Yeah,
won,
no. I wish I was a
No,
short king. Yeah, nah.
sure, exactly. Yeah, you got tall guy problems. And if you still win worlds, still win Sheffield, god damn it, you got too much, man. It'll be flaunting it too much. Plus, you're 6 feet tall. It's almost sacrilegious in powerlifting.
It's a complete package.
How much are you, what are your calories right now?
It hovers around like 3,400 right now, so I definitely could be eating more, but it is a bit of a chore for me to eat right now anyway. So um yeah, so I don't necessarily think that putting on weight is the challenging part. I could get fat, but putting on the right weight has been more of a challenge.
34 isn't small, but it's not crazy, but it's
Mhm.
not small. Like I know you heard stories about what Jurgens was eating. Like next
Mhm.
to nothing previously. And Shell is under 2,000 calories to make 66.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how little Shell is eating. Like it's difficult for some people to get that body weight down. I think Shell was, I can't remember what his calories was. I want to say it was like 1,700, something crazy light. Like that's, and I mean, 20,000 steps a day. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah. That's I think 1700 is what I have like some of my 52 women
Yeah.
eat on a regular basis.
Yes. So I'm like, Shell, how is this possible? And he was doing a crazy amount of steps a day to get his body weight low, was jacked as shit and obviously crazy strong. I'm like, how do you feel this strong? I mean, it's working. Obviously, it's working and it already worked. You know, he won Sheffield. But yeah, that's where it depends. Now, some people get nutritionists to bulk up. You know, it's like, for instance, Russell Orhe is bulking up. You know, obviously Bob is bulking up. So I don't know. Because Russ was saying I've been in 83 for so long. I don't know if you followed, if you remembered, well, actually, it was in South Korea. So for the longest time as an 83, Russ's totals were like 840s, right? And he was winning
Mhm.
by a good 20 kilos, but it was around 840s. He moved up to 90 kilos just for that South Korea meet. One meet at 90 kilos in immediate, and he wasn't even 90 kilos very long. Like we're talking just one comp. So what was
Mhm.
it, like 4 months at that body weight? And immediately put on 40 freaking kilos onto his total.
Yeah, it was
Immediately.
885. Yeah. And his bench
885.
actually, he didn't bench that much that meet too, if I remember correctly. I
No,
think he benched like
no,
185 or something like that. So
it
if you
wasn't
put
great.
on, yeah, if you add 200 to that, that's like he's pushing 900 already.
Exactly. And that's where, so now at Sheffield, he was just ever so close to being in the 880s as an 83, just missing that final deadlift. It started coming out of his hands. So, and that's as an 83. He's moving up to 93 now. Imagine what his freaking total might be as a 93 when he moves up. Like if he saw, I'm not saying he's gonna have an instant 40-kilo bump like he did last time, but he will have an instant bump. He will 100% have like a bump is gonna come. So sometimes it's both. Yes, you might pull the EV Agata shell route where your total doesn't diminish very much and you're still able to drop a weight class and just be as potent as you possibly can be pound for pound. But also, the lure of doing that might put people in a position where you are missing a 40-kilo bump that is waiting around the
Mhm.
corner that you don't even know. And I've said this on recent podcasts, but my boy Penna, friggin', it was just a water cut. It wasn't even a body weight bump. He's just like, I'm not going to cut water for this one comp. He never doesn't cut water. He always cuts the 66. Finally, he's like, I'm just going to not cut water and I'll lift that 69, right? Because he cuts the last few kilos. And his total went from 713 to 730. And it's like, dude, you gotta, and he like this was a meet he did for fun. It wasn't like a world's meet. He was prepping. He always trains hard. He's always at least semi ready. But I'm like, oh my God, you got a crazy, but that's just water. It's not even, you didn't even put on body weight. You stayed the same body, you just didn't cut water. There's bumps waiting for certain people, I think. It's tough. And this is difficult. This is where it becomes, are you Russ and Penna? Were your and look at Russ and Penna, multiple time world champions in that weight class. So they did their damn thing. But at
Mhm.
what point are you hanging around too long because of previous success? And previously it was easy and all of that, and you're waiting, 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 and there's a freaking bump around the corner if you just stop and you see people like Agatha and Shell, and it's more enticing. It's like, fuck, I got no, there's nothing wrong with sacrifice. There's nothing wrong with discipline. There's nothing wrong with, but it's like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. But it's tough, isn't it? It's tough
It
to make
is.
that call.
It is. I guess this is like a PSA to like newer lifters and more intermediate lifters out there. Like, don't drop weight classes generally. Like, unless you're at this level where you need to be specifically competitive in a weight class. And like Shell's case is
Mm,
like 66 was wide open, right? But Shell, I think that's a really extreme example. Like, I think like he really tried to cut because even when I cut down from uh 104 to 98, like I was still eating 2,700 calories a day. And my step count was right around 8K. So like it was a pretty easy cut for me. The bulk is actually harder. Um, but I think generally speaking, it's just when the cut gets tough, like really tough, you should probably just move up. but I don't think that really applies to anyone outside of really those elite level powerlifters where choosing a weight class determines whether or not you're gonna be a world champion or not even finish on the podium. So it's still tough even for the best lifters out there. It's tough, and there is always that uncertainty of like, oh, how much am I going to put onto my total if I bulk, right? Is it going to be an instant 40 kilos, right? And it probably won't be. But I think with Russ's case, like you saw him hit all of those like I always see him hit like these huge lifts in training, like
Mhm.
what 770 squat. He's pulling close to 8 in training, and then
Mhm.
those numbers are less in competition, and you can clearly draw the lines there and go, okay, that's connect the dots and that's probably because of a cut. But if if you're not there, like myself, for example, I think my best numbers are always happening in competition, then it's just a mystery as to what your numbers are going to be if you gain weight. So like, yeah, it's just tough to decide what weight class you want to compete in if you're like right in the middle. And and then like one wrong move and it might cost you like at least a year's worth of your career.
And that's the thing. And that's the big catch because we're not baseball. You don't have 162 games or whatever the hell they have in baseball. You got like 2 to 3 meets, and
Mhm.
usually they're qualifying you for the next level each and every time. So you make the wrong choice. You're like, okay, well, there goes a year.
Yeah.
And how many years of your prime do you got?
Yeah.
It's
Like it's already a struggle for people who are consistently competing in a weight class to make weight. So like if you're going to try to cut to make weight and you go through this like several month journey to cut to a specific weight class to compete and then you miss weight, right? Like what didn't Shell weigh in twice? Like is that risk really worth taking, right? If you're not really going for going for the title.
the first time I saw this. Well, one of the first times, and this was like at a significant level in powerlifting. I remember 2018, Isabella von Weisenberg. I don't know if you remember her. She was a star in Sweden. 2019 Worlds, when Sweden held it, I remember at bus stops, they had posters of her. She was literally the poster girl. On the side of the building, there was a massive 20-foot mural of her. And she was like in the Battle of the Seven Twos in 2019. 2018, she was going to cut, and she was one of the first. And she had to pull out at the world championships because she was cutting down and didn't make it. And she was one of the first. And to your point, Shell took 2 attempts to weigh in. A couple people did. Um, and this can happen. This can all go out the window. And especially if it's the world championships and it was in Canada and you have a flight, the whole nine, all the prep you did, everything. If you can't make that cut, if you can't make that weigh in, I remember she was crying, and I think someone tried to make her laugh to cut the tension, and she went to laugh, and her fucking her rib, the muscles over her ribs from her laughing, she was so dehydrated,
Oh, it started cramping,
clenched
right?
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
clenched up and bulged out like freaking knuckles. And they took a picture, and it was the craziest thing. It looked like an alien trying to pop out of her body. And she's like, that's my muscle balled up and cramping from, like, she was as done could get. And that was probably, I don't know if I've seen it since like that, but yeah, it's tough, man. It's freaking tough calls. You see success both ways. That's
Mhm.
you really do. That's why. Here's another reason. If you're going to do this journey at the top end peak, doubling back to you getting Natalie Richards or whomever someone's going to get, that's why you get a Natalie. That's why you get a Kedrick. That's why you get a Lane Norton or a freaking, oh, there's a bunch of them out there. Do your research. That's why you get them. Because when
Mhm.
things are, everyone can do steps and calories if it's just normal maintenance day to day. I do that right now. I got my fitness pal. I know how many calories I need and how many steps I need for my normal day to day. We're not talking that though. We're talking tip of the spear athletes like yourselves were You need to fill out 105 by certain dates. You need to be strong or you need to cut down by certain dates. And when everything's going good, whatever. But it's when the shit's hitting the fan that those people earn their money. When things aren't going to plan, that's when you're like, holy shit, I should have got a nutritionist. Who do I
Right.
talk to right now?
Like with the example that you gave, like even if she did make weight, like if she's cramping up like that from laughing, like how do you think squats are gonna go? Right. So I tell this to my athletes all the time who are like, oh, I'll just cut 3 kilos and compete in this weight class. And I'll tell them like, are you expecting the same numbers then? Like, well, how are you gonna handle what you eat and drink after weighing in to make sure that you can get back to your regular training body weight and put up the same numbers that you've been expecting in training? Like
Mm,
it's there's a 2 hour weigh-in is such a short window for you to be completely dehydrated like that. That's stuff that you see in the UFC, but you're not fighting 2 hours after you weigh in. So
mhm.
like you can get away with that a little, but if you're completely ridding yourself of all of this water in a short period of time, then your performance is going to take a hit. You mentioned Panda, like that water is huge. Like, and especially if since you're squatting first, right? Every meet you squat first, like that loss of leverage in your gut, even just because there's less water weight there, like that's that might take like 10 to 20 kilos off your squat if you're not careful with it.
Mm. Now, there's variables for sure. There's variables for sure. And there's people that like talking about Penna. So Shell on the last podcast challenged Penna to come up he's like, how about I don't cut for euros. You don't cut for euros. We don't have to fill out 74, but we battle as small 74s for euros. And then
Oh, I like that. I like that.
yeah, I was like, oh, that's sweet. He goes, Penna, if you're listening to this. And so I shot Penna a message and he's like, and I'm like, Penna, man, you're freaking if you just I just want to see what you could do as a small 74. And if it looks good, I know you got world games and you're going to do world games as 66. You can't change that now. But I think you should think about 74. And he's like, my man, 74 possibly in the future, but he's like, I'm not qualified for Euros as a 74 and I can't now. It's already locked in. I don't have that option. So he's like, there's nothing I can do about it. So he's like, that's cool. I'm glad he called me out. And maybe in the future, I got no idea how the future looks, but he's like, that's not an option. It's like, damn it. However, I think Penna is the same as Russ. I think if Penna just didn't cut water, he saw like freaking whatever kilo bump that was. Imagine he was like Russ and he did 4 months of just bulk because Russ was a legit 90 kilos, right? And he was thick. My man was thick when he came to South Korea. Did you
Mhm.
see him live there? Were you there live?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was competing right behind him, so on most of the lifts.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
I saw it. He looked good, but like when Russ is 83, when Russ competes at 83, he doesn't look like he's super dehydrated. Like seeing him at Sheffield, it didn't look um like he had to like chop off an arm to make weight.
Mm.
But when I see Ben on Instagram, it's like this guy already looks like he doesn't have any water in his body at all. Like where's
Day to
this weight
day.
coming from? Yeah, like
Yeah.
this guy is already one of the most leanest people I've ever seen. Like outside of powerlifting, like this guy looks like he's a competition ready bodybuilder. Like where's this body weight coming from? So like I
Yeah.
can't imagine how much he's dehydrating himself for these meets.
This is what I'm saying. Like, dog, you won two world titles at 66. You've been to Sheffield twice now. You're going to go to World Games. You've checked all the boxes at this body weight, at this weight class. Like, we're good. If you're ever going to make the move after World Games, come on, man. Let's just see what happens. If your total floated to 730 already, if you think you could take it to 740 by just not cutting water, you might as a full blown 77 cutting to 74 might be 800 kilo range. That'll be fun. Rock and roll, man. What are we doing
Mhm.
here? You're right. And as for Russ, it's true. He doesn't look like he's obviously diced as an 83, but it doesn't look like he's killing himself. However, everyone's body's a little bit different. And that's the other thing that kind of misleads people. They're like, well, this guy's leaner. I could just keep getting leaner. It's like, yeah, but your body might not like sitting there that lean for optimal performance. Some people don't realize that. They just tell themselves, like, I can get as lean as these other people and still be optimally performing. Not always. You look at some people in cardiovascular sports like a boxing or MMA. And some of these guys and girls aren't as diced and ripped as powerlifters, and they're endurance sports, and their
Mhm.
endurance is just fine. Their
Yeah.
endurance is better and just fine. It's phenomenal. Their body wants that kind of body weight. They're
Yeah, yeah.
actually optimal at it.
There's personal differences. Like I noticed that with the NBA too. Like I've been watching the NBA for decades at this point, and then I expect everyone to be as lean as they possibly can. Like the Miami Heat have like a body fat percentage maximum for for their players, and then I see
Oh,
this guy
really?
Nikola, yeah, but then I see this guy Nikola Jokic show up to the NBA, and looks he's 7 feet tall, but other than that, he looks like he can't do anything, and he really can't. He's the best basketball player in the world right now, but if you see him run, it's like he looks like a guy who with of that body type when he's running. And but like obviously basketball isn't a sport where your exact body weight, is it impacts your performance. So he's just sitting at the body weight that he's most comfortable with. So like even at the highest level of sport, like there is a body weight that you're comfortable with, right? And
Mm.
if you are shifting away from that too much, then you're just breaking that equilibrium too much, and your body just can't handle it.
Can you send me um this dude like a link? I want to see what this dude looks like. I'm not a
Nikola
basketball guy.
Jokic.
Yeah, I gotta see him. I gotta see him.
No,
I'm
I'll send you a picture of him running. I just saw it. I just saw it today.
uh, so was he like, for instance, Shaq isn't like Shaq's older now, but even in his prime wasn't crazy ripped. He
Yeah,
was
but if you
like,
see like Shaq from like the Orlando Magic days, like his rookie years, like
was he more diced?
yeah, he's he looks leaner. Like he was probably like 290, 300 pounds then. And he didn't really keep up with his conditioning, so he had like a shorter career than probably he should have.
Mm.
And obviously like he hit a huge peak, but it wasn't like for that long. He had those Laker days, and then he had won that one championship in Miami, but it was like pretty downhill from there because he didn't keep up with his conditioning. But yeah, the guy that I just sent you, like he's pudgy. Like this is him leaner right now, but
Let me take a look at this little pudgy muffin. Holy, he is a hold on. Where's he from? Serbia?
yeah, he's Serbian. Yeah,
Hold on. In what world is the best NBA player a chubby Serbian? What's going on right now?
this one,
I haven't
it's
been.
crazy. It's crazy. It was LeBron
What
for
is
20
going on
years, and
right
then
now?
this guy popped up. Yeah,
A chubby Serbian. Man, he's got. All right, he's not listening, so it's okay. I'm not being mean because he's never gonna know. But he's got like noodle arms, relatively soft. Damn, man. Yeah, you would not think, oh my God, look at this picture. All right, I'm gonna send this one right back at you, Playboy. Let me take a look at this picture here off of his Instagram. He legit looks like I'm like fat
yeah,
shaming right now, but he is let me hold on a second here. I'll share my screen because we do got people who are watching on YouTube and Spotify. Take a look at my man.
yeah.
He's got
So
no
this
the
is
muscle
currently
mass ain't there.
the best basketball player in the world, like hands down by
Is he
far.
really?
Yeah, multiple time MVP, NBA champion.
I mean, he's obviously tall as hell, but he
Yeah,
does not look like a guy that's he just looks like a normal dude. So he's the guy now. I forget. I'm so aloof to this. How long has he been the
he
guy?
well, so the thing is, like, he's a guy who kind of just like does really well at basketball, and then once the season's over, he goes back home to Serbia and does horse racing. So like he's not in the spotlight a lot. You don't really hear
Mm.
his name on ESPN too much because he's not in the headlines. He doesn't play in LA. He plays in Denver. So like if you're
Hmm.
not up to date with all of the NBA stuff, you might not actually know about him, and you might think it's still just LeBron and KD and Steph. Um, but he's been around, like he's been like the top guy for I'd say like the past 3 years, 3 4 years.
Damn. I'm freaking sleeping here. And yeah, he's definitely not like how is Serbia as a nation then? Does he have a team around him in Serbia that could do something?
Uh, So, I mean, he plays for the Serbian national team, but I don't necessarily know how he got so good at basketball. But like, there's a, I mean, there's a lot of good athletes from Serbia. Like I mean, the best tennis player ever is from Serbia. So,
Mm.
like, they excel at sports somehow.
Like, first off, those Eastern Europeans, man, you got to be careful. They're good. They're sneaky good at
Mhm,
sports. Like you look at like I'm a boxing MMA guy. They are all over in boxing and all over in
mhm.
MMA. Like they're like those Eastern European, the Caucasus Mountains, like a part of Russia and whatnot, like deadly good. But yeah, freaking, I could definitely see that. And is Serbia like the basketball team? Could they do some damage in like the Olympics? You think?
Didn't they? I think they got fourth or yeah. I think they got pretty far in the Olympics, kind of just getting dragged by Jokic alone. Like I don't really know any other notable Serbian players. But like
You know
he
what?
was
I'm
able
looking
to
in
do a lot with the talent pool around him.
because didn't US come in freaking bronze one time?
Oh, that was oh 04, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. That was oh 04 like and that was like one of the worst US Olympic teams and then in oh 08 they got like LeBron, they got Kobe back. And then they had this whole like redeem team thing.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Serbia got bronze at the Olympics. France got silver.
Mhm.
Serbia got silver. That's 2024. Serbia got silver in 2026. Um, yeah, so Serbia's in the mix. They're medaling at the Olympic level, and yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't realize, but yeah, to the point of in terms of athletes and being at your peak performance, it's not always what you look. And you're looking at all these people thinking like I could do the same. It's like maybe your body doesn't want to be like that. Or
Mhm.
maybe this dude has a big jumper performance that he could have. Even if you're the best, you could always get more. That's another thing, throwing it back to the Russ commentary. Russ was saying is like, because I was winning, I wasn't I wasn't learning because I didn't have to. I thought it was just at my peak. I thought I was doing everything right because I was winning by 20 kilos or thereabouts. Only after I took a L did I really take a step back and be like, wow, now I'm reevaluating everything. From his bench press, he opened heavier than in at Sheffield than he finished at Worlds. Freaking
Mhm.
he tried in and out of flats. Like he completely reconfigured his bench press, would put huge all these years. His bench press was just not on point. And he finally was like, let me retool this. And finally now he's like, I just learned how to bench press. He's, he put like 20 pounds on his 20 kilos on his bench press. It's crazy. On bench of all things. And he freaking he's like, only because I took an L. In the world rejoiced when I took that L. It's like you should have seen in Lithuania how much people were cheering when he lost. And all the haters came out all over social media. And he's like, okay, all right. Like the scene in Training Day when Denzel Washington's surrounded by everybody at the end. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right. Yeah, yeah. Like, you motherfuckers. He's like pointing. That was Russ for like 6 months until Sheffield. And only then did he have to really reevaluate. And
Mhm.
sometimes only with an L can that happen for you, where you're like, hang
Yeah.
on a second, I could add more.
It's easy to get complacent when you're at the top. So yeah, it's completely understandable. Like if you're beating everyone by so much, like it's really hard to think that you're doing anything wrong. Like how can I be doing anything wrong? Then how bad are all of these other people doing? Like that's
Mm.
probably what you're going to be thinking. But if you have someone like pushing you or someone right around that same level, then it just becomes this competition to of like perfection. Like how can I perfect this aspect of my training? How can I perfect this to make sure that I'm this much ahead of him?
Not only that, so it's not only that where, you know, while winning, they could be training crazy hard and doing a lot of hard work. No question, Russ was always training hard, but he didn't change. He literally changed the whole technique and reconfigured it of his bench press. And when you're winning, it's not only like why would I from an arrogant standpoint, but it's also like why would I change something that's got me winning? I could backtrack, and you can.
Mhm.
You can backtrack. You could be like, you there are other examples of athletes changing something, taking a horrible L, and people are like, what the hell did you do? again, I'm an MMA boxing guy. There are guys who change coaches, and it's like, what the hell was that all about? He changed the coach, freaking because the coach wanted a bigger percentage because now you're in the money. Now you're a crazy star, and the coach is like, I think I deserve a bigger percentage. Athlete thinks, I don't think you are. I think this is more me than you. I could do this with almost anybody. So he changes, and then all of a sudden they slide. So I actually understand where if Russ is winning like crazy and people are like, you got to keep training, got to keep evolving. It's like, yes, sure. Look at, I'm not training hard, but I don't want to retool my lifts if I'm winning because I could, how do you know it reaps benefit? And to
Mhm.
the point we were saying earlier, we only compete 2 to 3 times a year. If I had 82 games, sure. Who cares if I change something up for this game? I'm going to pitch a little differently. Who gives a shit? You get a terrible game, it'll all be in the wash, your average over the course of 80 games. But if you have three comps and one of them's qualifying you for worlds, you're like, I think I'm going to rechange my bench for this prep. It's like, I don't think you are, dude. Just win with 20 kilos like you always are and keep racking titles and chill. It's not until you have to. It's like, well, you could take an L anyways, so you might as well go for the change. So it's not even out of arrogance. It's more out of, it's even just being cautious. When you're winning, when you're at the top winning, it actually behooves you to stay cautious and not risk chances because you could lose your spot. Whereas when you're not there yet, you might as well take risks. Now's the time because you got to take that spot away from them.
Yeah, yeah. Because honestly, like no one remembers like if you're not someone who has won a title before and you've only come in like third or second, like you're not really remembered. But Russ will obviously be remembered for the time that he lost worlds because he was the top guy, right?
Mm.
So I think when you haven't reached that number 1 spot and I'm like I'm in that position too. But if you haven't reached that number 1 spot, then I think that actually gives you more freedom to experiment with stuff.
100%.
Yeah, because you're just
100%.
like, okay, like who I'm not defending a title, so maybe I can retool this and make it even better. But then once you've reached that number 1 spot, there's so much pressure of just back like being able to repeat your performance, being able to back it up, that then it's not necessarily complacency. It's just like I got to make sure that I at least can do this.
There's
And
risk
then
reward.
right,
There's
and then that
exposure to
affects your
risk.
ability to progress.
Mm-hmm.
But it's understandable once you're at that once you really reach that top spot.
And I think some people don't understand that and they talk like, well, why didn't you do this before? Why didn't you? It's like, if it was that easy, huh? If it was that easy. And that's where Russ even said on the podcast, it was almost liberating taking that L because now what the hell? I got nothing to lose. I already lost. Forever, people like he said, he would say on the podcast, when I finally lose, people are there's gonna be a lot of people coming at me. Because like what it is when you won too long. When you do finally lose, it almost becomes like, all right, fuck it. Let's try heels for squats. Let's rejig the bench. Let's whatever. I got nothing to lose. I've already lost. What they're already laughing at me. I have to make changes now. Joey B's coming. I made whatever. Let's just go. I got nothing to lose now. There's something liberative of having that. There's something about that operate when you're like that. And when you finally do get the number 1 spot, I don't, some people might not be ready for what the pressure that is, especially
Mhm.
if you retain it for a little while and it
Yeah,
becomes like, it's a whole lot more difficult to pivot.
yeah. You see a lot of that with like if there's a weight class where it's just really one person retaining the title. I mean, Amanda Lawrence might actually be the biggest example of this.
Yeah. I'm interested now. I love that you just brought this up. This has been a big conversation because Agatha is coming now. Agatha's already when Agatha first threw that idea out after she beat Carlina for the 76 kilo title, it was almost cute. And Amanda's like, that's cute, but there's a big difference. 613 and 646, there's a big difference, love. You be careful what you ask for. But after Sheffield, where she's now pushing, getting close to 630 and she's a 69, I don't know. Maybe Amanda now, maybe it forces a little something. We need this clash to happen first off. It'll be like the biggest showdown in the women's side, maybe even powerlifting. Period. These ladies' resumes are insane, but Amanda's total hasn't been moving in years. 4 years ago or so, she hit like 646. Now her PB total is 647. In the last three Sheffields, all of her totals have been around the same. Will it stimulate something? Or
Uh,
I don't know.
it should because like honestly like maybe maybe Amanda has to maybe take an L first for her to go back to the drawing board and maybe try to address some things. Maybe that doesn't need to happen, but the fact that that threat is there, right? I think that it's going to push Amanda if Agatha really does do 84s, it is going to push her to at least like get into the 650s, right? Because with the way that Agatha's training is going, didn't they attempt the same final deadlift at Sheffield?
They were legitimately like neck and neck right up until the end, where the final deadlift starts splitting them. But they were, I get the two weight classes below, and
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, two weight classes up, were kilo for a hot minute in the
Mm-hmm.
deadlifts. It's crazy. And Agatha's deadlift, which previously was a weak spot for her, is no longer a weak spot. Like Agatha can dead with anybody, obviously.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
she
If you're opening with a world record that was also formerly your world record, then like you're I hate the word specialist because I think there's very few specialists actually out there, but like because Amanda's just the best powerlifter in the world right now. So sorry, Agatha's the best powerlifter in the world right now. So she's not like a deadlift specialist. She's just a total specialist. But like her deadlift strong. It's
mm,
up there. It's one of the best in the world right now.
it's crazy how for a long time that wasn't the case. And then when her deadlift started flying, because she was a huge bench and she had a big total, but her deadlift started flying. I remember her caption was, "Oh my God, I'm turning into a deadlift specialist." She was like she's not. Her bench is too good to
Mhm.
ever be a deadlift specialist. But still, it's like she's like, what the hell is going on with my deadlift? But
Right.
here's another part. I've talked about this previously as well. Sometimes when the pressure comes, before you take the L, you think training hard just means pushing certain weight. And sometimes people get off of their program and start telling themselves, I need to squat this on week 3 if I want to squat this on week 4, if I want to hit this on the platform. And they actually start pushing, getting outside of the pocket on pro. This is how pressure deals. This is how pressure affects them. They start overlifting, lifting too much off program. They're not on RPEs. And then they show up, and that's where the progress just isn't there. Like, I'm not saying this is what's going on with Amanda. I don't know, but I'm just saying, period. In powerlifting, sometimes you see
Mhm.
this where if progress isn't there and they're like, if you don't think I'm training hard, you're crazy. If you don't think I see this coming, you're crazy. It's like, so how does this happen? Because powerlifting strength is something you almost got to coerce out of people. Like you got to coerce it into happening. It's like Russ said, coming into this rematch, he was hitting like no big weights. I forget that he said I squatted over 700 pounds, like maybe once. He's like, I'd never been. He goes, I literally like a man falling backwards into a pool. He just succumbed to the training that Joey wrote and said, I am not going to second guess anything. Not a single RPE, not a single weight cap you give me. I will not second guess anything. Give it to me. And Joey's like, if you're ready for it, here it is. And they literally so little max lifting. Russ is like, I was not trying to be coy with it. I literally was just not hitting that big of weights that were post worthy. I've done
Mhm.
much bigger in other preps, but this performance was obviously his biggest at 83 kilo. And it's a lesson for some lifters as well. And this would happen to me when I was competing. You feel pressure and you start telling yourself, if I don't lift this weight by this period of the block, I'm not going to lift this later on by the time the platform comes. And sometimes stress and pressure does that to you. When someone else is coming and they make you nervous, you think you're working harder by loading up. You're not. You're actually hurting yourself.
Yeah, that's the detriment of social media because I mean that I felt that happening to me like 2 years back. I think when Ashton and I first went head to head, we both ended up with the same squat. We both squatted 360, and then like he's always had a strong squad, but his started blowing up after that meet. Like I remember he did like a 372 double, something crazy like that. And I was like, shit, I haven't even hit 370 yet. So then I like loaded it in training and I
Mm.
hit it, but I don't know if it was beneficial for my performance on the day. And stuff like that it just gets to you. And like I don't know whether it's easier or harder for people like at the top to not get too preoccupied with stuff like that, but like it it was legitimately like a challenge to for me to not like to look at someone's training and go, I'm not going to let that affect the numbers that I choose for this training session.
And especially if it's a very heavily hyped showdown, you can't get away from it. Like people will tell you about what the other person's doing.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
all
people are
over.
like, "Ooh, this person hit this in training. This person hit that in training. What does that mean? What are they going to hit in competition?" It's like, I don't know. I don't know. But the fact that you're
Yeah.
bringing it up is really stressing me out. So stop.
It's like, yeah, fuck. Like the whole freaking community is talking about it. This is what's going to happen. When you go to PA Nats, when you go to Worlds, when you go to Sheffield, when you do all these things, of course, it's going to be talk of the town. You're going to hear, or you won't be able to escape unless you completely shut off. It's that's another piece that's very difficult for powerlifters, and that's another piece that it's going to be interesting if someone has to actually take an L before they're willing to step up to that pool, turn around, make their back face the water, and just fall backwards and succumb to it and be like, I'm allowing my coach, I'm giving up all preconceived notions of what I think I need to hit or what I think is hard training. No, your coach will tell you it's a 7 today. Your single's a 7 and your top platform squat is this much. So I better not see anything close getting loaded today. You need to do what I tell you. And succumbing is difficult, man. And pressure actually, when people enter the weight class and put pressure like this it actually forces people to do sometimes reckless decisions and it's not like not training hard, it's overtraining. We're in a tough, weird sport like that. That's the whole reason about RPEs. I said this just recently. Mike T brought in RPEs into powerlifting. They took it. Sorry if you guys heard this on the last podcast. I'll be brief on it. But they took it from endurance athletes and they found out that if an endurance athlete didn't run, so they're revving their engine and those RPEs in their engine are revved to the max, they actually left some room in the tank. What would be their version of an RPE 8? They use the heartbeat per minute to judge. If they left it there and didn't train all out, they actually week over week got better and better and better. And then these athletes destroyed all the previous records, and endurance was never the same. And people didn't overtrain anymore. But previously, they just dropped the hammer, and you got to kill you. It's a freaking marathon, so you have to kill yourself to get ready. Or any of these distances you see in the Olympics that are endurance distances, you think you got to kill yourself every time out. You don't. They found out you don't. They found out to an extent less is more. Mike T read about this, and Mike T's like, I wonder how this applies to powerlifting. And Mike T's the one who brought over the RPE system into powerlifting, by the way. Anyone who sees Mike T, he's the size of a freaking gorilla, but he's so flippin' nice. You ever see him at Worlds or Nats? He's American. Go say hi to him and tip your hat to the legend because he changed the game with bringing over RPEs. He's at all U.S. nationals and he's at Worlds and Sheffields and everything too. He trains Kasim. So he's at Sheffield this year. But anyways, and it flies in the face of now we know. Now we know you can't go all out all the time. And this is what I also wonder if I know Penn has talked about sometimes overshooting, like he grinds like crazy. And it's good to grinding as a skill and it gets your nervous system primed for it. But he's also talked about openly, he's probably overtrained, like probably overtrained. Like there are times when he shows up and his performance doesn't come with him. You can overshoot. You can overshoot. You can get too emotionally inclined to it. So I don't know. That's it's difficult, man.
Yeah, it also changes from person to person. Like I've never been someone who can hit a big deadlift in training. Like I always have to leave a lot left in the tank, and then and then I'll be capable of like 20, 30 kilos more in competition. But I like if I want to deadlift 385, 390 in comp, I should probably cut it at like 360 in training. That's probably as heavy as I should be going. But then you see other people like I remember when Joe Bornstein hit the 900, he hit a 385 kilo deadlift in training. Like it's all the different from person to person. Like the amount that they can exert in training, and like the RPs that they can hit in training without it impacting their performance too much. Like I've learned now that I really shouldn't be deadlifting too heavy outside of competition. But but then you see these people do it in training. You see Rondell's 425, and then I second guess myself and I go, what should I load that much? Like should
Mm.
I try to load something crazy? And you have to understand that there's individual differences to it as well. Like I can push heavy on bench in training and still have it be there for me on meet day, but it just isn't the same with the other two lifts.
And it takes so much confidence
Mhm.
to not want to peek around the corner and see if you got it in you before meet day. Some
Yeah.
people want at least one big single. Like, let me know
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah. And then like you have the comp, then you're like, okay, I hit it now. I'll definitely get it on meet day.
That's
But
right.
oftentimes the reverse happens. Like you get it now so that you don't get it on meet day.
The thing is, that's why I told Russ, I'm like, Russ, you really put a lot of confidence in Joey's programming because for you to have been doing a certain way for so long, and then for Joey to like pull back your RPEs and you weren't hitting anything super heavy in the biggest showdown in your life. Like everyone's watching Sheffield. Everyone's looking like, will you take another L? Back to back L's? Russ never takes back to back L's. You might take a back to back L, and everyone's going to watch Sheffield. And people will be dancing on your grave at this point. And for you to just be like, okay. And you don't even say, like, I need one, I need a big dead, I need a big, just like push for it. Like, no. He's like, no, I trust my coach. I just succumbed to it. Just be like, it is what it is. I got to trust them. It's like, holy shit. Talk about the faith in the process and just, it's big, man. The thing is, so Russ views himself as an athlete. He's like, if you're an athlete and he's the coach or she's the coach, whatever your scenario is, you have to be the athlete. You don't push, you can give feedback, but you have to trust the process. You have to be all in. If you don't have that trust with your coach, you don't got the right coach.
Yeah.
Or it's you, you need to work on yourself. You're get yourself a Amelia Potter who does sports psychology and be like, I'm freaking, because your coach, some people might be with whoever, Joey Flex or whoever the shit, and they're in good hands, but they still are those nervous Nellies that can't. They're pushing, and it's like, hey, this is actually you. You need to relax. You need to work on your sports psychology a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, there are definitely people who are uncoachable, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stay forever. It just means that you're uncoachable for this moment. And like that coach athlete dynamic is so it's so important because they have this whole blueprint of like how you're going to perform the best in competition. And if you're maybe going behind your coach's back or just not following the program, then like your visions may align, but the path of getting there isn't lined up. And I also think that like as a coach myself, if an athlete goes off a program, I think it's a sign of disrespect to the coach. Like,
Mm,
oh, I know better. Like I know my body better. Like then why do you have the coach?
yeah.
Just do what the coach is saying, right? Because they have your best interests um, at heart. So establishing that relationship and myself and my coach Joe Stanek, Russ and Joey Flex, like prime examples of people who have been like working together and that dynamic is now well established. Well established. Like it goes a long way to have that faith in your coach and for your coach to have that faith in you. I think that dynamic is also a huge reason for why like people can find success in the sport because if you're just butting heads with your coach team all the time then really you're not doing the work or putting in the mental effort that goes into actually putting kilos on your total.
Mm. Yeah, it's tough. And this is where, doubling all the way back to like the pressure of performing. And I wonder if like sports psychology is going to become more and more prevalent as the sport grows and the pressure gets bigger and the shows get bigger.
I think so. I think so because nutrition was like the step after programming, right?
Hmm.
Nutrition was like, okay, people need to get on top of their nutrition, but the mental aspect of things is something that can't get in, especially as the sport gets bigger and there's more eyes on the sport. And like, I haven't been to any of these meets, but like Sheffield, apparently, like the way that Russell described it is, it it seems like an event. Like it's you got cameras on you. There's people waiting in lines to see you, right? That's pressure. So I think as that develops more and there's just more cameras on you, there's more eyes on you, there's more people talking about you, it's hard to tune all of that out. And I don't know if powerlifting is going to get to a point where a world level athlete has a psychologist, a coach, and a nutritionist. It may get to that point, right? If there's enough money in the sport to do so. But I do think that that's kind of one of the um, next checkpoints for powerlifting to become like an even more competitive and even bigger sport.
I remember this is going back like quite a ways, but Steffi Cohen was on the podcast. This is back when she doesn't even powerlift anymore, obviously, but when she was going toe to toe with Mariana Gasparian, and this is like 2019, and the previous comp, she had actually bombed out. And she openly was talking about. So she went to go see a sports psychologist afterwards. And the sports psychologist told her, do you do much mental work on this kind of thing previous to this before coming to see me? And Steffi's like, I would, but it backfired on me. I would picture like success. I would picture like going 3 for 3 on squat, 3 for 3 on like I'm crushing this. I hit this number, I hit that number. Kind of like we're talking about people are like, I need to hit this number by week 3 in my block if I'm going to hit that number later on, blah, blah, blah. And then it carries over, though, into the meet so that when you hit the meet, people don't envision you miss your first bench. All right. Well, we got 2 more. Then you miss your third or your second, sorry. And you're like, holy fuck, what is going on right now? And you've been nothing but positive reinforcement in your visioning and nailing it. Whenever you go to sleep at night, you're in the shower thinking about your glorious moment. You're nailing them. You're nailing all of these lifts, whatever. But at the meet day, this has never happened before. You've never envisioned this. And now you're 2 down, you have 1 left. And the feeling and the anxiety of holy fuck, first one was technicality, the last one kind of felt like strength. That's when it becomes holy shit. And the sports psychologist said, here's what I want you to start doing. Now, when you're prepping, picture yourself missing a lift, coming back and hitting. You have to start accepting that that's more realistic. And you have to start wrapping your mind around missing, coming back, hitting, missing, hitting, and that's how your day might go. And you're fine with that. And you won't have the super meet. But if the super meet isn't unfolding and you've wrapped your head around a super meet for 3 months straight, it doesn't affect you. You have no feelings towards that. You don't care. You're not disappointed. You're not sad. You're not angry. You're just only the task at hand applies. That's what like Mike Tyson said. When the day comes, people think I'm angry when I'm fighting. I snarl to make people scared, but in reality, I have no feelings attached. Only the mission is in front of me. I have no feelings about it whatsoever. I don't care. I just have the mission ahead. Otherwise, you won't make it round to round to round. When you start getting tired, when you start getting beaten up, you start over analyzing. None of that matters. I'm not thinking about all that. It's like, okay, well, then I do this. Well, is there a pattern I'm supposed to read here? Well, I should be doing that. Well, when I step to the right, how does he react? All that. That's all I'm doing. I don't care. I don't care. There's no feelings. It's what you got to get. But sometimes we get so wound up and attach feelings, and it helps get adrenaline going so you can hit a big lift, and it helps you to rise to the occasion at points and times. But if things don't go to script, oh Nelly, if you've wrapped your head around that script in your mind's eye leading into it, and Steffi's like, And especially this happens if you've seen people who have a meteoric rise in any sport, it's when they get checked. And often it's the physical outliers who have, actually, there's a book on this called Outliers, those meteoric rises where they haven't been checked. And they haven't even had to think about a sports psychologist or any of this, what I'm talking about, because it's been a meteoric rise. And when they come face to face with someone who's had up, down, up, down, up, down, and they aren't genetically gifted in it particularly. They are to the elite level, but not to the 1% of the one percenters. They had to grind and they've took L's and they've had to recalibrate and come back and grind some more. And they took L's and it's been on and off and it's been a fight for the last 10 years. And they got there year 10, you got there year 2. But when the shit hits the fan and you both dig in and you're both reaching across the table for the same thing, they're probably going to take it out of your hands. They're ready for that. They could be down the first quarter to the second quarter and rally in the third and the fourth. And you will be rattled. You weren't ready for that because you've never had that. This matters. These things matter in sports. We see it in other sports that are bigger. Powerlifting's getting there now. And when Steffi
Yeah.
Cohen 5 years ago came on and talked about that, it's like, fuck. Amelia Potter is always on the podcast. She's a sports psychologist. She talks about it as well.
Yeah, it's because I mean you just talked about it, but I don't think I've never envisioned myself missing a lift. Like I've never put that thought in my head of me missing a lifting competition or like God forbid like bombing out. I've never seen myself doing that because why would you want to? But I think that speaks to just how uninformed maybe a lot of this community is to sports psychology because and then people are so different. You see someone like Ashton before his squat and it looks like he's about to like tear someone's head off. Like that's how he gets
Mm,
going. And like I've seen it in person. Like it's he makes you angry by looking at him just because of how like amped up he is. But then conversely, you see someone like Jurgens before his last deadlift at Worlds, like he's all smiles, right?
mm.
And he's out there trying to listen to his son, and so like I would say that people's personalities differ even more than their like physical bodies, and as a coach with just one personality and no background in psychology, like I can really only speak to how I handle pressure, and then that just might not work for someone else, and that goes like that applies to all other coaches as well. Like how if this athlete has this personality, how are you going to make sure that they can keep themselves going after a bad performance, after a bad training session? Like because my mindset is like just grind, just keep going. But like that doesn't apply to really just some other people. And I think I had a pretty narrow-minded view of it because I was like, if you want to be an elite level lifter, you have to think like this. But I don't necessarily even think that's the case anymore. And sports psychology is like the next frontier to really understanding athletes and getting the most out of them.
Yeah, it's like some coaches, they approach like back in the day, like I would hear stories. Sometimes I was there was a few summers where I was doing a weight training program for these athletes in hockey. I'm in Canada where they were trying to make it to the OHL or NHL, etc. And I'm doing the weight training program, and I was talking to them about RPEs and like how their programming works in terms of their conditioning. And some of them are like, man, the coaches just run you till you puke and they want to try to break you. And to an extent, I get like sometimes you want to try to get someone right up to the point of breaking, and then they don't break. And then later on in the games come, you're like, you felt what fatigue really is, and this isn't that. So whatever. But on the other side, there is to an extent, some coaches just don't understand. You can't, not everyone's the same. You're not going to get everything out of them. If you're a powerlifting coach, yeah, no, it isn't just grind, cry hard, or picture success. Just picture success. No, you're not, whatever. It's like you could be setting them up and you don't know it. This is out of your league. At certain points, I think not everyone's going to need a sports psychologist. A lot of people do these these things in their mind automatically anyways, or a lot of people it more intuitive to them. They know what they need and they get themselves there. But for some people they don't. For some people, you might take a little bit of steering and be like, hey, and when you find out and they can steer you, frick, just like a dietitian, you might be naturally 105 kilos your whole flipping life. And aren't you lucky that we have a weight class 105 kilos? You know what I mean? Where
Exactly.
that is true. That is it. But for other people, you might need a nutritionist. It's the same thing with sports psychology, I bet you.
Yeah, and I mean that's more like mental health in general. Like just because someone needs that guidance, someone needs that help doesn't necessarily mean that they're mentally weak. And I think a lot of like that this is true in Korea as well, because like sports in Korea is so entrenched in tradition and things like that. Like if you can't get through this, you're just too mentally weak to
Mm.
become an athlete. That's not the case at all. Like just mental health is a very touchy subject, but it's also like I think very misunderstood. Like just because you need a specific type of guidance doesn't mean that you're mentally weak. It just means that your mentality is different and you need someone to kind of guide you in the direction that you can be guided. But then once you actually get that guidance, you can still excel just like anyone else.
Well, how is mental health viewed in like Korea?
Uh honestly, I mean mental health for me is better now. I think compartmentalizing, lifting, and just thinking about it more as one aspect of my life and not the entirety of it has really helped me kind of think about training better. I almost kind of think of it as a 9 to 5 now. Like, okay, go in, get out, and you're done with it. Don't really think about it outside. Uh, like outside of training, obviously have like a wedding to plan for. I have other things that should be bigger sources of stress to me. Frankly, so the fact that I'm able to kind of not think of powerlifting as like the only thing in my life has been tremendous for my mental health and not being worried about it um, just night in and night out has given me like more clarity and focus when going into training sessions because I'm not going into a training session mentally fatigued about the numbers that I'm going to be hitting that day. Like I haven't thought about it all day and then I'm jumping into the training session. It's like I
Mm.
go into the training session, I take a look at the program and go, okay, this is how I feel right now. These are the numbers that I'm going to hit. All right. And then once I'm done, once I finish the training session, I'll send them over to Joe. And then I'm done. I'm done thinking about training that day. So that's been huge for me. I think before I had all of these like personal life events happening, I was more worried about just specifically powerlifting and the training, and I think I let that get to my head more. But now I'm super busy right now. Like physically, I'm really busy with the meet prep and the wedding planning, but mentally, because of how busy I am, because of how many things I have to focus on, I think it. I'm able to sort things out better, and it's just been way easier on my mental health.
Isn't it funny? I want to pull up a clip and veer in a different direction in a second about mental health and sports or whatever. But isn't it funny how staying busy and have multiple things in the go helps sometimes because it gives perspective. First off, you don't have all your eggs in one basket where I
Mm.
need this. If this doesn't happen, and it's like, what are you talking about? I've heard people say like, I need to win this nationals. I need like, it's like, I got news for you. The sun's gonna shine the next day regardless. Like you're getting married the same month as nationals. Like it adds perspective. It's stressful. For sure it's stressful. However, it puts a lot of perspective. There's a lot of things going in life. And the distraction of, I'll deal with that when I get there on the day. Like I'm not even thinking about deadlifts because I'm at work right now. And then I get home or I get to the gym and then I'm at this or whatever. You have other things going on in your life. Sometimes a distraction isn't the worst thing. Some people like, wouldn't it be nice to just powerlift? Maybe, maybe, but it's not the worst thing in the world to also have some distraction. It can
Mm.
actually be a bit of a cheat code because it forces you to be present with other things in your day. And then when you show up at the gym, now you're looking at your schedule and you're like, oh, okay, it looks like I'm squatting this. It's not the worst thing in the world or to have other things going on in life. So whether you win or lose or whatever, you're more balanced, you
Yeah,
know?
I think because there is a bit of a trend with professional athletes. They get married pretty early. That might be due to just how much money they make at a young age, but like they get married in their early 20s, mid 20s. And I think that has something to do with it because if your entire life, if your entire career is just how you perform as an athlete, that becomes stressful when that part isn't going well. Then if that's your the entirety of your life, like if an athlete
Mm.
faces an injury and the one thing that they're getting paid to do isn't panning out, like what else do you have to focus on in life? But if you have a family, if you have kids to raise and things like that, you can kind of go like, okay, I still have this is the bigger focus in my life regardless of how I perform as an athlete. And then it puts things into perspective. And then like I'm not saying that like I'm not putting 110% of my effort into this meet prep, but it's nice to know that there are other more important priorities.
Well, let me show you this clip. Talking about, mental health and like seeing a sports psychologist and how some people might be like, yeah, that would be weak if you need to do that and I don't. That means I have an edge on you or whatever. And there's a guy named Tyson Fury. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and he suffered some crazy mental health issues, left the sport for 4 years, gained an insane amount of weight, became an alcoholic, a drug addict, was suicidal. And another gentleman named Deontay Wilder won one of the titles that Tyson Fury had and relinquished without losing it because he literally couldn't handle the pressure and everything went sideways on him. Deontay Wilder picked up his belt, and Tyson Fury at one point posted a video of himself and he showed himself shirtless. Now, I mean, he was obese, alcoholic, like as far off from the professional athlete that he was just a few years earlier. And Deontay Wilder seen the video and publicly mocked him and laughed at him and downed him in public about it. And Tyson Fury seeing that, and it was literally the catalyst to Tyson Fury stopping the drugs and drinking, getting himself back in shape, and launching an incredible comeback all the way to a title fight with Deontay Wilder. And now let me show you this one moment in the last round. Deontay Wilder dropped Tyson Fury, and I'm telling you, it looked like he shot Fury in the head, and Fury was dead to rights, done. But let me show you this, and then I'll pull up the quote from him. But let me do a quick screen share here.
Oh,
And he
I'm
is
hurt.
my man. He is as dead. He's as dead as dead gets. He is as dead gets right there.
I
My
think I heard a
man,
comedian talk about this. Like I thought he was like, I thought he died.
he 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 was as flat on his back and no longer with us as flat on your back gets. And he gets up. It's look, he's completely out. If when you see the up top shot, he's dancing. See Wilder dancing there?
Yeah.
Wilder's literally dancing. Now let me pull this quote here. As yeah, Tyson says I was out for a few seconds. Anyways, you know what? Okay, let me give me 1 second to find this quote. God, it's so flipping good. Okay. So they said when you got back up there, and he actually won the second half of that round.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him, when you were down, how hurt were you? And he's like, I was completely knocked unconscious for a few seconds. I opened my eyes and was like, where am I? Like when you open your eyes when you first wake up. Only I opened my eyes and found out there was 20,000 people live and a million people watching me. And I just got knocked out in the last round of this match. And first thing I thought to myself was him laughing at me and everyone talking about how weak I was mentally because of everything I went through, suicidal thoughts, psychology, to everything. And he's like, I got to get up. I gotta get up for everybody who's dealing with some shit right now. Everyone who's dealt with some mental health issues and is watching this fight and thinks, fuck, it happened. It happened. He did great right up until he was winning the fight, right up until, and then it happened. He's like, no, I have to get up. I have to get up. And not only that, I have to win the next half of that round. And he brought it to Wilder on rubbery legs. He took it to Wilder the second half and finished not only on his feet, but Wilder in retreat. And they had memes about, the Undertaker in WWE, how he pops out of the casket from the dead.
Yeah.
And that was literally memes of Tyson Fury. And they show pictures. So Wilder was like dancing and like, oh fuck, it's over. Because Wilder had like a 95% knockout ratio. Like he knocked everyone dead.
Yeah,
It's
he
it's
hits hard.
it's how he wins. So when he does that, you're done. And he was already celebrating, like, well, that's that. There you go, Fatso. Get back into retirement, and was dancing. And they showed pictures of like snapshots of when Tyson Fury got up. The look on Wilder's face was, what the fuck? That never happens. They never get up. They never get back up when I hit them like that. And more to the point of what doubling back we were talking about earlier, when they never get up and you're used to, it's like getting those white lights. When you're used to one thing and it goes another, it's unexpected. Well, that's not the script. Well, what's that all about? And all of a sudden, when Fury gets to his feet and the crowd goes crazy, and now the momentum swung back into Tyson Fury's side, and now he's all over you. Now he's like a freaking rabid dog all over you, swarming, and you're like, what the shit? It's remarkable, man. It's a beautiful tale, especially when Tyson Fury was asked about it afterwards. He's like, I had to prove. It doesn't mean you're mentally weak. It just means you have obstacles to overcome, but it doesn't. And he was the toughest man in the world. And he had crazy mental health issues and was in psychology and was like, had so much going on. And you could never break him in a boxing match. You could never break that man. It sounds almost contrary to, like, how can you have all these mental health issues and be literally suicidal where you want to end it in life and all these addictions, and you quit on yourself and you let yourself go to like 400 pounds, and you became a laughing stock in to the world, and you were lost everything. And how could you do that to yourself? But when it came down to a fight, you think, yeah, I'm gonna break that fucking guy. As soon as he tastes adversity and I drop him, he's not getting up. He'll break. And that guy will refuse when it comes to a fight. It's so counterintuitive. That guy, yeah, that guy will die in that ring before he lets you dance all over him like you were dancing right there. He'll get up every time. It's like, how? It's so weird. It's so bizarre. It's fascinating, man.
Yeah, I think like thinking of it as counterintuitive is a bit mistaken there. Like maybe it isn't. Like I maybe this guy is maybe Tyson Fury is just so competitive that he's like, I'll let life beat me down, but I won't let you beat me.
Mm,
Like that's probably his mentality. Like going into that fight. Like I think standardizing like mental struggles as mental weakness it is a problem, and it's clearly not true. Like some of the best athletes have some of the worst personal mental health issues, and I think that thinking that someone is a professional athlete or someone competes in sports makes them mentally tough. It just isn't the case. But also at the same time, just because an athlete shows signs of depression or shows signs of maybe self-doubt or maybe even in worst cases self-loathing doesn't mean that they're not going to show up to compete. Right? Competition is an entirely different thing. A competition mentality is an entirely different thing. And you don't have to be the most mentally sound, mentally stable person to excel at sports. So, and powerlifting is the exact same way. A lot of people are going through a lot of battles, and powerlifting is also a sport where a lot of people aren't making like money through their actual competitions. It's they still have a side job and they still have all of the stresses that everyone else goes through, and they just happen to be a top level powerlifter on top of that. And yeah, don't disregard what mental struggles or people are going through. Don't ignore them. Don't mock, but also don't mock them because that doesn't mean that they're not going to show up.
That's fascinating, isn't it? It's
Oh yeah, it truly
freaking,
is.
it is truly fascinating. It's really, yeah, what makes people tick. I mean, bringing it back to powerlifting, when Russ lost to Brett and they rematched, his total shot up like 40 kilos and he won the rematch. And it's when he lost that he's like, I'm turning it on. When Russ lost to Jurens, I was saying, if you guys don't think that Russ is pulling all stops. Like he's the ultimate competitor. You cannot dance on him. Like you will not style on him. Like he's gonna come. If he loses, it's not you were gonna still see a massive jump in his total regardless. He's not gonna be the same guy you saw last time. I promise. And like obviously, spoiler alert, won the battle of the 83s and took the world record in the 83 kilo class all over again. But there's certain people that it's like, this is not how it's going to end. They are going to come back storming back. Eventually, maybe you win the rematch, but they're going to fucking push you to the brink. If you think what they did last time is what you're going to get next time, you got to be ready for more. Like
Yeah,
they're,
they're
you know,
they're not going to go quietly into the night. Like Russ
that's
coming
right. I
back
love that
the
quote, by the
following
way.
year, Russ coming back the next year against Brett. I mean, Taylor did the same thing against Shell, didn't
That's
he?
right.
Like
That's
he
right.
Taylor lost, and then the following year, like dominated the 74s that year. And now look at what Taylor is doing now, right? When everyone counted him out, like don't count these people out until they say they're done,
Mm.
right? Because they're not going to go quietly. They're not going to be like, oh, people say I'm washed, I must be washed. That never happens. Like they're not going to doubt themselves just because you've doubted them.
I love that quote. Do not go quietly into that dark night. It's literally, look at that dark night's coming for everybody. You decide how you want to go out.
Yeah,
So
I'll determine when I'm going to go.
that's right. That's right. It'll be kicking and screaming right to the very end, my friend. It will not be with a whimper. Right? It's a beautiful thing. And that's kind of why people love sports. It's like a microcosm. You get to see these little storylines that play out in a 3 hour game or a 3 hour powerlifting session or an hour long boxing match or whatever it may be. It's like a little microcosm. You get to take a peek into someone's heart and soul and all the background and everything they bring into that match, whatever game it is, everything that boils into it. Now we get to see the conflict resolution to it. Let's see how
Mm-hmm.
the story ends. And it can be riveting. And what's even more riveting is when both people have a absolutely phenomenal story and they both want it more than ever. And they both are willing to lay it all on the line for it. And you know it. And now they're going to clash. And you're like, my God, this is going to be good. You can only pray for that moment as an athlete to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's. I think if you're truly a competitive athlete, it's what you live for. You're not out there to like if you end up doing so well that you're just the dominant force in your weight class, then so be it. But I think every athlete lives for the moment to really go head to head, make it come down to the last deadlift, and then like play that chess match of okay, I'm gonna put this up, but it's just a placeholder. I'm gonna drop it. Right. Let's see what he does. Like that's when powerlifting feels the most fun for me. And I think that should be the case for anyone who really thinks of themselves as a competitor.
What I Penno like years ago was like, man, I'm always in life and death struggles. I win, but it's by the skin of my teeth, and I lose the next year, and I come back, I win again, skin of my teeth, and I lose again. He's like, I want to be like Russ, like Mike Tyson in his prime, just lay waste to these guys. And I'm like, you think that, but that's why everyone loves you in France because you are vulnerable. Because it's scary when you hit the platform because you're vulnerable, and their hero is vulnerable. That's the movie you watch. You're like, holy shit, I don't know if he's going to win. So when you do, it's amazing. It's like, oh my God, he did
Yeah.
it. He pulled it off. Oh my God. And I was telling Russ when he's on the podcast, I'm like, this makes your story so much better. And this makes your legend so much better to have handled adversity. It's one thing, Jordan said, yeah, a lot of people talk shit in the fourth quarter when you're down. And let me see you pull it out. And now okay, good. Now can you do it? or you quiet. You're quiet now in the fourth quarter, huh? Like that's not you then. And it's when adversity comes and you battle back and you win. I'm like, this is what makes it's easy to talk shit and be cocky when you're winning by 20 kilos for year after year after year. But that's not just Russ. Russ isn't the front runner. Russ isn't a bully. He can take an L, come back and win. That's what's going to be the legacy piece of Russ, where it's like, yeah, but he was dominant, but those L's actually reveal more to his sporting character. And that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
tell Penna at the time is your sporting character cannot be denied. And these are opportunities when you take an L, full on an L. It's over. You lost. Ali said, only when you lose do you have the opportunity to show. Only when you lose do you get that opportunity to bounce back. And even in that loss, people got to see you dig deep. You truly dug deep where there's nothing left. And we got to see it all. And we got to see if you're willing to dig that deep and how you handled it. And then if you came back and what that looked like. He's like, it's not all bad. So, because when someone asks him, like, yeah, but Rocky Marciano never lost. And he's like, yeah, but Rocky Marciano didn't face the guys I faced. And look what those losses did for me. Now
Yeah.
you see everything about me. Now you know how great I am. I love look. You're not going to get in a debate with Ali and win, but so this guy got spanked. But it's true. It's 100% right. It's an
Oh
opportunity.
yeah. Yeah. Like if imagine Superman without kryptonite. That's a boring story. That's Homelander, right? So
Exactly.
like you need that weakness. You need that vulnerability for people to root for you and for people to relate to you. And then if you really prove yourself and come out on top, then that's when people really start getting behind you. They don't want to see like someone just completely dominate and then have no competition for their entire career and then just walk away like that. They want to see that
Mm,
adversity.
yeah. And it's a good thing. I mean, people should embrace it. Good. Now we get to see what I'm made of. Now I get to see if I really am the person I was saying I was, or if it's now the game is on. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited for your freaking 2025, man. Look, I was already excited and I had hints of because I knew that's why leading into PA Nats, there's a couple people I want to grab before PA Nats rolls around. And obviously you're one of them. But hearing you talk like you did, dog, it's got me fired up. But you're talking about Beb planning your honeymoon in Germany
I
because we're
know,
going to
I
be there.
know.
Hey,
We're
hey,
we're, we're
Beb,
going to Europe twice this year, babe.
don't worry about not UK though, not UK. We'll hit that in 2026. Don't worry about that. But it's like um, it's like freaking when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pumping Iron was like the day before he had breakfast. Have you seen Pumping Iron with Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger? Everyone should see it if you're into weightlifting. It still holds up. It's made in the 70s, still holds up. But when Lou Ferrigno and his dad tried to like get in his head, so they invite him to breakfast the day before, and Arnold's like, um, and he knows what they're trying to do, so he does the opposite, and it backfires on him. He's like, "You want to hear something funny, Lou? I called my mother today." And he's, would you tell your mother, Arnold? I told her, Mom, you're not gonna believe it. I won. Oh, that's so good, Arnold. Oh, congratulations. Thank you, mother. Thank you. And the competition hasn't even happened. He goes, yeah, can you believe that? She was so proud of me, so happy. Anyways, and it's like that's how confident he is. He's like, I told my mom I won already. Fuck it. She doesn't have to wait. But but yeah, that's your Arnold Schwarzenegger moment for
I
your
know
honeymoon and
it
wedding.
could fire back horrendously on me, but I'm not gonna try to make that happen.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'll be there at PA Nats doing the commentary and whatnot.
Mhm.
So we'll have an opportunity. It sucks that you won't be in the prime time, but you post up what you want to post up. It may not matter after all, anyways.
No, I'm trying to make myself unbeatable. I don't really care when I compete. Like I'll put that total up there and it's yours to take, whoever wants to challenge it.
In a lot of ways, man, it might even be liberating yourself to just go in there and be like, we just go, we have to drop the hammer. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm gonna win by a
Uh,
little or a country mile. Drop it.
yeah, because Joe and I were talking about like maybe like can I sneak over to the U.S. quickly to put up a qualifying total, or we even talked about like do I because apparently I can just put up a total at any IPF competition. So we were talking about being a
Mm.
guest lifter at Japan's Nationals, which is next week, and we looked at all the options and I was like, yeah, nothing really. It really seems like a good idea. So once I was resigned to, just doing the morning session. I was like, fuck it. I like having the deck stacked against me. I'll just I'll just think that, the world is playing games with me. And I just have to prove myself even more.
I love it, dude. I love it. And listen, um, we're already 2 hours in. Let's save the backstory for after nationals. We'll double back again. I know we were going to talk about like when Ashton and you first battled, and I was gonna because I brought it up to Ashton since, and it's a freaking good story too in the whole nine. But you know what? I'm I'm loving your confidence, and I'm pretty confident in you myself. Let's double back after Worlds and talk about all that and save it. And
Absolutely,
we're gonna have a
absolutely.
lot. I think we're gonna have a lot more to talk about real shortly.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
let's let's touch base at PA Nats and dude, thank you for coming on the podcast. This is a freaking really good conversation, by the way. You never know what happens when you have somebody on the podcast. Sometimes you go back and forth and you volley it back and forth, and it's like we're rocking and rolling right now. And sometimes it is what it is. It's a good conversation, but it's not quite like that. Dog, 2 hours flew by, and we went to all types of different
Yeah, I
places.
didn't I
I
didn't
had,
think I'd be sharing the fattest basketball player picture with you.
or I'd be sharing the fattest heavyweight champion in the
Yeah,
world.
exactly.
But it is what it is. We both started like pulling up medium, like take a look at this. No, you take a look at this. Wow. But whatever. It was a good conversation, man. I appreciate you. Let's have some more. We'll stay in touch, and I'll see you at PA Nats.
All right.
And good
Thanks
luck
for
with
having me, man.
training, my man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched base again.
Yeah.
But all right. And oh, before I let you go, also you do coaching. How do people reach you for this?
I do have a website. So my coaching business is called Unlimited Strength. I have a website. It's linked in the bio on my Instagram. I also have a separate Instagram page for it. So if people want coaching services, they can DM me through that page, or they can visit my website and send me an inquiry through there. So yeah, there's a lot of avenues open, or they can just DM me directly.
And it's a random Korean dude on
Yep.
Instagram. Easy to
Hmm.
remember. And most people end up going through Instagram or social media anyways, man.
Hmm.
This day and age, right? But it's
Yep.
good. You need a website anyways.
Yep.
But thank you for coming on the podcast, my man. Much appreciated.
Mhm.
And everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.